책을 읽는 가장 쉬운 방법. 윌라 오디오북.
And as dawn approached, Scheherazade told the tale of the portress. Know, O Commander of the Faithful, that I had a father who, after fulfilling his time, deceased and left me a great store of wealth. I remained single for a short time and presently married one of the richest of his day. I abode with him a year when he also died, and so I became passing rich, and my reputation spread far and wide. One day, as I was sitting at home, behold, there came in to me an old woman with lantern jaws, and cheeks sucked in, and eyes rucked up, and eyebrows scant and scald, and head bare and bald. When the old woman entered, she salaamed to me, and kissing the ground before me said, I have at home an orphan daughter, and this night are her wedding and her displaying. We be poor folks and strangers in this city, knowing none inhabitant, and we are broken-hearted. So do thou earn for thyself a recompense, and a reward in heaven by being present at her displaying. And when the ladies of this city shall hear that thou art to make act of presence, they also will present themselves. So shalt thou comfort her affliction, for she is sore bruised in spirit, and she hath none to look to, save Allah the Most High. Then she wept and kissed my feet. So pity got hold on me, and compassion, and I said, Hearing is consenting, and please Allah, I will do somewhat more for her. Nor shall she be shown to her bridegroom, save in my raiment and ornaments and jewelry. At this the old woman rejoiced, and bowed her head to my feet, and kissed them, saying, Allah requite thee weal, and comfort thy heart, even as thou hast comforted mine. So saying, she kissed my hand, and went her ways. So I threw on my mantilla, and making the old crone walk before me, and my handmaidens behind me, I fared till we came to a street, well watered and swept neat, where the winnowing breeze blew cool and sweet. Arrived at the gate, before which hung a black curtain, the old woman knocked, and it was opened to us, when we entered and found a vestibule spread with carpets and hung around with lamps all alight, and wax candles and candelabra adorned with pendants of precious gems and noble ores. We passed on through this passage till we entered the saloon, whose like for grandeur and beauty is not to be found in this world. And hardly had we taken note of this, when there came forth from the baldaquin a young lady, and I looked, O Commander of the Faithful, upon a face and form more perfect than the moon when fullest, with a favour brighter than the dawn, gleaming with saffron-hued light. The fair young girl came down from the estrade, and said to me, Welcome and good cheer to my sister, the dearly beloved, the illustrious, and 1,000 greetings. Then sat she down, and said to me, O my sister, I have a brother who hath had sight of thee at sundry wedding feasts and festive seasons. He is a youth handsomer than I, and he hath fallen desperately in love with thee, for that bounteous destiny hath garnered in thee all beauty and perfection. And he hath given silver to this old woman, that she might visit thee, and she hath contrived on this wise to foregather us twain. He hath heard that thou art one of the nobles of thy tribe, nor is he aught less in his. And being desirous to ally his lot with thy lot, he hath practised this device to bring me in company with thee. For he is fain to marry thee after the ordinance of Allah and his apostle, and in what is lawful and right there is no shame. When I heard these words, and saw myself fairly entrapped in the house, I said, Hearing is consenting. She was delighted at this, and clapped her hands. Whereupon a door opened, and out of it came a young man blooming in the prime of life, exquisitely dressed, a model of beauty and loveliness and symmetry and perfect grace, with gentle winning manners, and eyebrows like a bended bow and shaft on cord, and eyes which bewitched all hearts with sorcery, lawful in the sight of the Lord. When I looked at him, my heart inclined to him, and I loved him. And he sat by my side, and talked with me a while, when the young lady again clapped her hands, and behold, a side door opened, and out of it came the Qazi, with his 4 assessors as witnesses. And they saluted us, and sitting down, drew up and wrote out the marriage contract between me and the youth, and retired. Then he turned to me and said, Be our night blessed, presently adding, O my lady, I have a condition to lay on thee. Quoth I, O my lord, what is that? Whereupon he arose, and fetching a copy of the holy book, presented it to me, saying, "Swear hereon, thou wilt never look at any other than myself, nor incline thy body or thy heart to him." I swore readily enough to this, and he joyed with exceeding joy, and embraced me round the neck, while love for him possessed my whole heart. Then they set the table before us, and we ate and drank till we were satisfied. But I was dying for the coming of the night. And when night did come, he led me to the bride chamber, and slept with me on the bed, and continued to kiss and embrace me till the morning. Such a night I had never seen in my dreams. I lived with him a life of happiness and delight for a full month, at the end of which I asked his leave to go on foot to the bazaar and buy me certain especial stuffs, and he gave me permission. So I donned my mantilla, and taking with me the old woman and a slave girl, I went to the khan of the silk mercers, where I seated myself in the shop front of a young merchant whom the old woman recommended, saying to me, "This youth's father died when he was a boy, and left him great store of wealth. He hath by him a mighty fine stock of goods, and thou wilt find what thou seekest with him, for none in the bazaar hath better stuffs than he." Then she said to him, "Show this lady the most costly stuffs thou hast by thee." And he replied, "Hearkening and obedience." Then she whispered me, "Say a civil word to him." But I replied, "I am pledged to address no man save my lord." And as she began to sound his praise, I said sharply to her, "We want naught of thy sweet speeches. Our wish is to buy of him whatsoever we need, and return home." So he brought me all I sought, and I offered him his money. But he refused to take it, saying, "Let it be a gift offered to my guest this day." Then quoth I to the old woman, "If he will not take the money, give him back the stuff." "By Allah," cried he, "not a thing will I take from thee. I sell it not for gold or for silver, but I give it all as a gift for a single kiss, a kiss more precious to me than everything the shop containeth." Asked the old woman, "What will the kiss profit thee?" And turning to me, whispered, "O my daughter, thou hearest what this young fellow saith. What harm will it do thee if he got a kiss from thee, and thou gettest what thou seekest at that price?" Replied I take refuge with Allah from such action. Knowest thou not that I am bound by an oath? But she answered, "Now wist, just let him kiss thee, and neither speak to him nor lean over to him, so shalt thou keep thine oath and thy silver, and no harm whatever shall befall thee." And she ceased not to persuade me and importune me and make light of the matter, till evil entered into my mind, and I put my head in the poke, and declaring I would ne'er consent, consented. So I veiled my eyes, and held up the edge of my mantilla between me and the people passing, and he put his mouth to my cheek under the veil. But while kissing me, he bit me so hard a bite that it tore the flesh from my cheek, and blood flowed fast, and faintness came over me. The old woman caught me in her arms, and when I came to myself, I found the shop shut up, and her sorrowing over me and saying, "Thank Allah for averting which might have been worse." Then she said to me, "Come, take heart, and let us go home before the matter become public, and thou be dishonoured. And when thou art safe inside the house, feign sickness, and lie down and cover thyself up. Then I will bring thee powders and plasters to cure this bite withal, and thy wound will be healed at the latest in 3 days." So after a while I arose, and I was in extreme distress, and terror came full upon me. But I went on little by little, till I reached the house, when I pleaded illness and lay me down. When it was night, my husband came in, and said, "What hath befallen thee, O my darling, in this excursion of thine?" And I replied, "I am not well. My head acheth badly." Then he lighted a candle, and drew near me, and looked hard at me, and asked, "What is that wound I see on my cheek, and in the tenderest part too?" And I answered, "When I went out today with thy leave to buy stuffs, a camel laden with firewood jostled me, and one of the pieces tore my veil and wounded my cheek, as thou seest. For indeed the ways of this city are strait. Tomorrow," said he, "I will go complain to the governor, so shall he gibbet every fuel seller in Baghdad." "Allah upon thee," said I, "burden not thy soul with such sin against any man. The fact is, I was riding on an ass, and it stumbled, throwing me to the ground, and my cheek lighted upon a stick or a bit of glass, and got this wound." Then, said he, tomorrow I will go up to Ja'far the Barmaki and tell him the story. So shall he kill every donkey boy in Baghdad. Wouldst thou destroy all these men because of my wound, said I, when this which befell me was by decree of Allah and his destiny? But he answered, there is no help for it, and springing to his feet, plied me with words and pressed me till I was perplexed and frightened. And I stuttered and stammered, and my speech waxed thick, and I said, this is a mere accident by decree of Allah. Then, O Commander of the Faithful, he guessed my case and said, thou hast been false to thine oath. He at once cried out with a loud cry, whereupon a door opened, and in came 7 black slaves, whom he commanded to drag me from my bed and throw me down in the middle of the room. Furthermore, he ordered one of them to pinion my elbows and squat upon my head, and a second to sit upon my knees and secure my feet. And drawing his sword, he gave it to a third and said, strike her, O Sa'ad, and cut her in twain, and let each one take half and cast it into the Tigris, that the fish may eat her. For such is the retribution due to those who violate their vows and are unfaithful to their love. Then he repeated to the slave, smite her, O Sa'ad. And when the slave who was sitting upon me made sure of the command, he bent down to me and said, O my mistress, repeat the profession of faith, and bethink thee if there be anything thou wouldst have done, for verily this is the last hour of thy life. He again cried out to the slave, cut her in half, and free us from her, for we have no profit of her. So the slave drew near me, O Commander of the Faithful, and I ceased bandying verses, and made sure of death, and despairing of life, committed my affairs to Almighty Allah, when behold, the old woman rushed in and threw herself at my husband's feet and kissed them and wept and said, O my son, by the rights of my fosterage and by my long service to thee, I conjure thee pardon this young lady, for indeed she hath done nothing deserving such doom. Thou art a very young man, and I fear lest her death be laid at thy door, for it is said, whoso slayeth shall be slain. As for this wanton, since you deemest her such, drive her out from thy doors, from thy love, and from thy heart. And she ceased not to weep and importune him, till he relented and said, I pardon her, but needs must I set on her my mark, which shall show upon her all her life. Then he bade the slaves drag me along the ground, and lay me out at full length, after stripping me of all my clothes. And when the slaves had so sat upon me that I could not move, he fetched in a rod of quince tree, and came down with it upon my body, and continued beating me on the back and sides, till I lost consciousness from excess of pain, and I despaired of life. Then he commanded the slaves to take me away as soon as it was dark, together with the old woman, to show them the way, and throw me upon the floor of the house wherein I dwelt before my marriage. They did their lord's bidding, and cast me down in my old home, and went their ways. I lay in weekly case, and confined to my bed for 4 months, before I was able to rise, and health returned to me. At the end of that time, I went to the house where all this had happened, and found it a ruin. The street had been pulled down endlong, and rubbish heaps rose where the building erst was. Nor could I learn how this had come about. Then I betook myself to this my sister on my father's side. I saluted her, and told her what had betided me, and the whole of my story, and she said, O my sister, who is safe from the despite of time, and secure? Thanks be to Allah, who hath brought thee off safely. And she began to say, such is the world, so bear a patient heart, when riches leave thee, and when friends depart. And such is my story. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. And so it came to pass that, when Shahrazad had told her tales for 1,000 nights and a night, and had bored King Shahryar 3 sons, the king declared that he would no longer hold over her the threat of execution, having never ere now found such fidelity and beauty united in one woman. Thus they lived together for many a year in perfect tranquility and affection, the king ruling over his kingdom with justice so exemplary that he was once again beloved by all the people.
윌라 오디오북